Manchester City won, Inter Milan nil, City secure the treble, but Inter make things very, very difficult. So today I want to dive straight into our analysis, and on paper, Pep was sticking with the team and the shape that has served him in all the big games this season, a 3-2-2-3 with John Stones and Rodri in a double pivot, but in reality that wasn't the case. Actually, it was a 3-4-3 diamond with Stones as a fully fledged 8 on the right of that diamond. This isn't the first time a positional play coach has played this way against Inter. Xavi's Barca actually used the same shape in the Champions League group stage, and it's a system that has a lot of merit against Inter's 5-3-2, primarily because you retain a numerical advantage in midfield, 4 versus 3, but also because you give yourself the opportunity to create a spare man through the middle, and that's quite crucial against a team who are very, very good at controlling the wide areas. Inter's 5 at the back allows them to cover the width of the pitch and put a lot of pressure on opposition wingers, but they also become extremely compact whenever the ball goes to one side. So in many ways, it's actually easier to play through Inter than around them, and that will become relevant later. For now though, we have to talk about Inter and Inzaghi's approach because it's one of the best that I've seen against City this season, and it was all about restricting City's space at all costs, not allowing a single player to have any kind of breathing room, which meant at the top of the pitch, pressing 3 versus 3 against City's back line, with Barella stepping up alongside the 2 forwards. Behind them, the remaining 2 midfielders marked the 2 points of the diamond usually, the pivot and the 10. On paper, that actually leaves the 2 wider midfielders free, but the key tactical move from Inzaghi was how aggressively he used his wide centre-backs, who were happy to step up as far as they needed to close down City's spare midfielders. So, for example, when the ball is on the right, Bastoni is pressuring Stones all the way into City's half, and then when the ball shifts to the left, Darmian does exactly the same to De Bruyne, effectively becoming a man-to-man press. It isn't a man-to-man press though, because you'll notice all of a sudden Stones on the other side is free again, and that's because Bastoni has dropped into the back line to prevent Acerbi being left 1v1 with Haaland. And that's how defensively Inter seem to have numerical advantages everywhere, because they prioritise compactness on the ball side, but allow free players elsewhere, knowing that it's actually really hard to get the ball into them. And so you get the critical tactical challenge from a City point of view. You know one of your midfielders is likely to be free, but the question is how do you get the ball into them, and can you do it quickly enough that Inter centre-backs doesn't have time to step out? And that proved a very difficult challenge, partly because City are used to being actually quite risk-averse, and here they were forced to take risks in order to find the free man. Here, for example, Diaz has the chance to find Stones, but Dzeko's presence puts him off. Or even here, Stones under pressure could possibly turn out, but even if he couldn't, Rodri definitely could find Gundogan further forward and chooses to go backwards instead. Extremely fine margins regarding pressure and passing angles, but these are the moments that prevent City from creating threat further forward. And you can see that whenever City played backwards, despite having the opportunity to find the free man, Guardiola would get frustrated because it allowed Inter to reset and City lost their chance to exploit the space. But because of their shape, that diamond, it was especially important that City were brave enough to play through the middle, because that's where the positional advantage was likely to be. Remember, Inter need to commit at least 1, if not 2 centre-backs into midfield to make up City's 4 versus 3, and if they get that wrong, like they did on this occasion, it frees up a number 10 right in the middle of the pitch. After all, this was the whole reason City played a diamond, and the key to forcing more of these situations was putting the midfielders and defenders into difficult situations regarding who to mark and what space to cover. That's why the positioning and movement of Erling Haaland, the centre forward, is also really crucial, because if he occupies the right space or moves at the right time, he can make it impossible for the centre back to step up and make up the numbers in midfield. Here, by literally just standing directly behind Foden, he prevents either of the centre-backs from stepping up. Or here, his movement drags Bastoni away from Stones, who can receive without the threat of pressure. And the times that City looked most threatening in this game was when they put all of this together, using Haaland to distract the aggressive wide centre-backs and creating an overload between the lines. But because of Inter's pressure on City's distributors, particularly Rodri and the centre-backs, these passes weren't actually found too often at all. So what about John Stones then, playing as a pure midfielder? Well, I've got to say I was extremely impressed. Not only did he take responsibility in the middle to carry the ball and create space on his own, He was also quite effective in that space when receiving on a couple of occasions. That said, there are definitely points where you'd prefer a more natural playmaker in this role, especially considering he was the free man quite often. His first touch has a tendency to take him backwards and invite pressure, or inside rather than outside, and on occasion you'd like him to be more comfortable on the turn to exploit those half spaces better, but honestly, I can't really criticise him. He is, remember, becoming a right back out of possession, and the fact that he's also a top class defender in the box makes City so much harder to score against, so it's probably worth the trade-off. In the end though, Inter for the majority of this game prevented City from any kind of real domination, and what foiled them in the end was not John Stones or even Pep's midfield diamond, but actually it was a single moment where their intensity finally dropped. And that was always going to be the danger. They made things difficult precisely because of their aggression, because every time a winger received it, the wingback was on top of them, or if City found a player in space, that space was shut down immediately. But around the 67th minute, City finally found a bit of breathing room, and crucially, the pressure on Rodri lost its intensity, and he was able to start circulating the ball from left to right. Then Bernardo picks it up, and this time DeMarco isn't immediately on top of him. Again, Rodri isn't tightly marked and can spread it across into space, and these might seem like irrelevant moments, but for almost the first time in the game, Inter's pressure was becoming reactive rather than proactive, and distances between player and pressure were increasing. And ultimately, City's goal was actually very simple, because for the first time all game, Akanji, the right centre-back, wasn't under immediate pressure and could actually drive into space. Bernardo Silva makes a classic City half-space run. For once, Bastoni is too eager to step up. Bernardo gets in behind and Rodri cleans up. And that's the horrible reality of playing against Manchester City. You can be note perfect for 99% of a game, but you give away just a metre of space and they'll absolutely kill you. Very tough on Inter, but frankly, City were the best team in this competition, almost certainly the best team in the world, and their treble is very well deserved. On the flip side, Inzaghi also deserves a lot of credit. I think this system will serve as a sort of blueprint for teams looking to frustrate City going forward, and as they potentially lose some of their key players in the summer, watching them defend this trophy will be very interesting indeed. So there we have it, just a few thoughts from me on this Champions League final. Let me know what you thought of it. Were City lucky ultimately to win this, given Inter's great defensive performance? Obviously didn't look at Inter's possession, which has some interesting elements to it, but I hope you enjoyed regardless, and I hope to see you in the next one. So have a great day or great evening, and take care.